Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and welcome to Global Atheist News Review. You know, every Saturday we do a report on how religion has impacted humanity over the last 7 days. And then every Sunday, I have an opinionated people panel. And what we do in this panel is we give our view of the news. And this is it. This is Global Atheist News Review. Do you want to see the panel? Here they are. So today we have Tersia in South Africa, Ty and Frank in the Bible Belt of the USA, and Guy in Manchester, England. We also have Esther in the Midlands of England. So welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
Great. Okay, well, let's go straight in. And the first item today is the latest in the saga of the Russian Orthodox Christian Church's support for Putin's war in Ukraine. Now, this is almost too amazing to believe, because we not only have an unbelievable situation. Well, look, I'll show you. Look, I'll just show you the picture. You won't understand this until you see this picture. Look, that's the leaders of the Russian Orthodox Church blessing a huge missile, and to cap it all, the name of the missile is Satan.
Brilliant.
So what do you think of that?
Even Hollywood could not come up with something like that.
Am I right in thinking, though, Frank and Ty, that 20 or 30 years ago, maybe longer, in America, there was a missile that was called the Corpus Christi?
Okay.
That makes a little more sense. Wow.
It's a great picture.
Yeah.
Well, I will say, I looked at that picture and I could only think of something else. And for the sake of this channel, I would choose not to. Can you show that picture again, please? And
Sure.
see if anyone can have an idea.
Symbol, isn't it? I mean,
have an idea what it reminds me of.
I think I've got it. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, this is a family-friendly channel, but what I want to say is in no way family unfriendly, because it's actually a quote from the original Shrek movie. All I would like to ask is he compensating for something?
This is also slightly unrelated, but it also looks like a giant penis.
Oh, dear. It does remind me. I don't know whether I can quickly do this anecdote. I went to a funeral cum christening. It was a very sad case where a mother died shortly after childbirth, and they did the combined christening and the wedding and funeral at the same time.
Oh.
And blow me down, the name that this vicar was giving to this child in a christening was Lucifer.
Oh,
I thought,
No.
this is an Anglican church. I couldn't
Not
believe
a
it.
No
bad
way. When was this? How long ago was this?
It's about 3 years ago. Yeah, maybe 4 years ago, maybe. Yeah.
There are some things you just couldn't make up. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, kids would be less inclined to make fun of a Lucifer on the playground than a Jesus. Like, Jesus rhymes with cheese. They'd be like, cheese. Cheese is like, call me
I
cheese.
don't know,
If you name a kid named Lucifer, it's like, oh, that guy's cool.
Well, the boy was already being called Lucy,
Nice.
which is not exactly, a
Hey,
bit like
it's
the boy named
2022.
Sue.
It's that stuff is in vogue right now. Like, get that Lucy name in. Girls are naming themselves Sam. Kids are naming themselves Lucy. It's the way to go right now.
Yeah.
I'm just going back to the subject of the missile. I remember in history, one of the ships that came to Africa to take the slaves was named Jesus. The slave ship was actually named Jesus.
Was that a Portuguese ship, was it?
I'm not sure which country's ship it
ship.
was. I'm not entirely sure.
Tersia wanted to speak.
Yeah, on the topic of the missile being blessed by the priests, something that I spent a year in Greece, almost a year as an au pair in 1991, and being exposed for the first time in my life to the Greek Orthodox tradition was something that I found completely strange and in many ways astonishing. Because in the Western, in the Reformed tradition, of which the Anglican and all the American churches are part, we don't have this thing about physically blessing things. We don't have the holy water, and in the Roman Catholic Church, it's even been a little bit diluted. But in the Orthodox churches, this whole idea of blessing things and using a type of sympathetic magic is so common, and it just boggles my mind that we can be living in the 21st century and we still have millions of people who seriously believe in sympathetic magic, because that's what the idea is behind the concept that you're blessing. It's like a pre-modern our ancestors walking around in the grasslands and blessing a stone before they throw it at an animal, that a prey animal that they want to kill. What are we going to do about that? It frightens me.
Well, yes.
I'm actually trying to figure out that these people are actually blessing something that's about to cause a huge disaster. Do they understand the impact of their actions, right? I thought Christians were supposed to be people that shared the love of Christ, people that, were like Jesus, on earth. And this missile is, I mean, think about it. Things will be destroyed, people, lives, and people's properties and things. I honestly don't understand it. I don't. I wish I did, but I don't.
It does seem very odd that you put those two things together. The benevolence of a religion, you would hope, and then the utter destruction of that sort of weapon. Ridiculous.
Time out. You guys know you're talking about the Roman Catholic Church at the end of the day, like Crusades, Plantagenet dynasty, medieval time. These guys have been murking stuff since day one. Like, this is not a surprise. This is just another wake-up call that we keep hitting the sleep on. Like, this is what they've been doing since they've begun.
Yeah.
This shouldn't be a surprise.
Unfortunately, I've got another example of it, because just after I finished editing last week's Global Atheist News on Friday the 13th, a mob of Nigerian Muslims beat Deborah Yakubu to death and burnt her corpse. Now, you said something about this last week, I think, Esther, because it had just happened when we had our show. She was an outstanding student at Shehu Shagari College of Education in Sokoto. And she'd been accused of, guess what? Blasphemy.
And not what for. I actually am on the track of getting to hear the English version of the voice note over which she was killed. So she was on a group of students at her college, and one of the Muslim students posted something religious on the WhatsApp group, and she made a voice note wherein she requested her fellow students to please refrain from posting religious content on the group, because it was a group for academic purposes, for learning and for fellow students. And that was enough to get her killed for blasphemy. So I'm hoping that I can get the English version. I'm actually in contact with somebody in that area who promised to send me the English translation of the voice note, because it might be quite interesting to hear the actual translation of what this girl was killed for. It's not as if she
I don't know whether Esther. I don't know whether Esther might be able to help you with a translation from one of the Nigerian languages.
Yes, I have a copy of the voice note in one of the Nigerian languages. I'll send it to you, Esther.
I think I sort of know what the translation was all about. I think this was her just being in a WhatsApp group that was designed specifically for studies, for the college work, sharing assignments and, things to do with classwork. And the Muslim students were using that as the opportunity to spread Islamic propaganda. And she was only requesting that can they keep it clean of all religious. And bear in mind, she was a Christian herself. And it's just a back and forth between her and someone. And she must have said something that offended the Muslims. And, it's really sad what happened to her. I saw the video where she was. I don't know how many of you have seen that video. I only saw it just one time, and my heart broke.
It's on Global Atheist News if you want to look at it. It's horrifying video. They're beating her with sticks until she's dead. And you can hear them shouting, Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar.
Yeah. It's disgusting, to be honest. However,
and to think that many Muslims have not condemned the act. They have said, "Oh, but you need to respect our religion."
Yes.
This lady was not Muslim.
No.
Just yesterday, a friend sent me an article. I'm not sure. If I don't think anyone has died so far, but a pastor yesterday has been attacked. He's been accused of blasphemy. His house and property have been burnt down, but I'm not sure if he's still alive or not. But this happened yesterday in Bauchi State, Nigeria. So I'm not entirely sure the details, but and my friend said, if you don't address these people, you just embolden the mob.
Yes.
They think that it's okay to just lynch anyone who blasphemes the prophet.
Sad. Perhaps you could send me a link to that news item.
I'll do it now.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll do it now.
I'll include it into next week's Global Atheist News. But it's not just Nigeria. And also on Friday the 13th, in Israel, you may remember we reported last week on the horrible killing of the Al Jazeera journalist, Shireen Abu Akleh. Well, on Friday the 13th, a crowd of people were carrying her casket to the funeral. And guess what? Israeli forces attacked them. It was utterly disgusting, inhuman behavior, but virtually no Western politician has mentioned it, certainly not condemned it. So it's not just Nigeria.
What would be the motive? I just don't get that.
Yes, I wonder whether politicians' unwillingness to comment on them stems from a concern that we don't really understand what's going on there, why that happened. I mean, I did see some suggestions that the coffin or the procession was going to a place that is out of bounds or something, or through an area that they weren't supposed to be in. That's all part of the, if that's the case, then that's part of the Israeli occupation, and the unfairness and oppression of that. So it's very difficult to understand what really is happening and why they did that.
Yeah, indeed. It's.
I will say that I saw the video of that her coffin being carried and all the commotion, and it was, I could not for the life of me just understand what was happening. Why? I mean, I feel like if someone is dead, just give them the last respect. Just
it boggles the mind.
Humans.
What could be more important than respecting a coffin? I don't know. Yeah. So, coming down to your part of the world, Tersia, in South Africa, Sifo Mkachwa, pardon my pronunciation, tried to sell 2 albino children, I think he'd killed them, who were from his fiance's previous marriage, and he was receiving traditional medical treatment from a Sangoma, and the treatment was going to cost 2 million rand, and he tried to use one of these children, albino children, as payment, and the healer apparently refused that means of payment. So what do you say about that, Tersia?
Well, it's one of my pet topics, is that religion might be thought of only as Christianity or Muslim or Judaism, but it comes in many shapes and many brands. And in Africa, and particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, there's this idea that you have this blend between healing and medicine and religion, and it's a very toxic blend, and it costs the lives of many people who are accused of witchcraft for a variety of reasons, children who suffer from epilepsy, adults who have dementia, older people. They are seen as either, in some case, a powerful muti. So muti is a traditional word for medicine, and like animal parts are also often used, similar to what happens in Chinese traditional medicine.
Yes.
But in this case, it's actual human body parts, especially people who suffer or people with albinism. And a quite a number of people are with albinism are murdered every year for that reason, because their body parts are seen as having special powers for some reason. I think I will just say one thing, and then I think I'm going to sit and listen to you guys, because I'm asking myself more and more, what can we do about this? And the more I think about it, the more I believe that the only solution is that we have to focus on science and science education. In particular, as humanists, in particular as non-believers, we have to become science communicators, all of us, and we have to explain to people, and we have to make them think. So what can the body part of a person who suffers from albinism do to heal anything? And those are the types of questions we have to begin to ask, and we have to explain we have to educate, because if we don't educate people about the human condition, even when it comes to something like blessing a missile, we have to begin to explain to people how the human brain works, and that religion and what we experience as religious beliefs are seated in our brains. And we have to find ways of doing this so that we can begin conversations to convince people, and to before we convince them, we have to educate people.
Yes.
And we have to all become science communicators.
Yes, I blame the teachers, and I can do that because I was one. But
can I just also say that this is something that goes on in Nigeria and other parts of Africa as well.
Yes.
For some reason, some people just think that the albinos are special,
Yes.
and if you can kill one of them as a sacrifice, somehow it will speed up whatever thing you're trying to do, because some people believe that you can go to these people over there. You call them sangomas. Over in Nigeria they call them herbalists. These people will request all sorts of things. They can request a goat's penis. They can request a chicken's what do you call the all sorts of things they would request. Yeah, they request all sorts, and if you bring those things, they reckon they can do this magic, and this magic will, whatever you've come there for. People go there, maybe they want favor different kind of favors. They want to be rich. That's the current thing, what's happening now in Nigeria. A few days last week or the week before, a young man was caught with the dead body of his girlfriend. He had been sleeping with her corpse for about 5-6 days, because the herbalist had said that's the requirement. You've got to sleep with the corpse of a young lady in order to be rich. So, as for solutions, I feel like these are the kind of conversations we African atheists need, to engage in. There's a young man in Nigeria right now who has he's an atheist, and he's got this really small channel on YouTube, and he has offered money to any herbalist who can come forward and do any miracle, where they can record it and put it. He's challenging, he's trying to tell the people that this does not exist. This idea that there's this spiritual realm, these people who you believe in. So he has made an open challenge to pastors, preachers, herbalists, anyone who claims they can do the miraculous. And he keeps offering, and he keeps going from town to town. He has his megaphone, has his group of friends, telling them anyone who can come forward and do, just trying to prove to people that these people are nothing but scammers. There is no magic. And when you kill, the young man killed his own girlfriend.
Yes.
Slept with her body for 5-6 days, right? I feel like we need to, and for someone like this young man in Nigeria, he needs more
education.
And to keep on, what's the word, promoting what he does.
Yes, that young man is an African version of Amazing Randy, who also offered $1 million for anybody who could do a miracle. Nobody did, of course. He kept his $1 million. But I think we ought to say, before we leave this subject, for the benefit of anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, that albinism is a genetic condition which prevents the individual from developing any pigment. So they have skin that has not a freckle, and it's pink more than white because of the blood that can be seen through it. And the hair is utterly white, and the eyes are pink too, because there's no color in them either. It's a very unfortunate condition, and of course they suffer greatly from exposure to the sun. But they don't have any special powers. Please don't think of them that way.
Also throwing it out too, it's not contagious. So if you see someone that's albino, you don't need to ostracize them. You can please treat them like anyone else, because they can touch the same things you can touch.
Yes.
You can date them. They're regular people. Everyone's regular people.
Yeah,
exactly.
We're coming over to your neck of the woods now, Ty and Frank, because on Wednesday, the Senate Democrats forced a vote in an attempt to advance the Women's Health Protection Act, which would have codified abortion rights into federal law. this is a reaction to the leaked Supreme Court draft opinion. But guess what? The Republicans blocked that bill.
I guess I should tell you, because I'm not proud of it. I was a registered Republican for 50 years. But a couple of months ago, I became a registered Democrat.
To be fair, Frank,
yes?
To be fair, the Republicans of today are not a bit like the Republicans of 50 years ago.
Exactly right. It's not the party of Lincoln anymore. No.
And we'll absolve you of your sin. You are
I was just having the same thought, Tersia.
You can't absolve them until you have a giant penis missile. We have priorities. Priorities, guys.
I've got some herbs. I'm sprinkling my herbs, my African herbs over him. He's absolved.
I'm going to ask Steve, who's producing this show, to bleep out all those mentions of yes.
But I mean, the interesting thing, as I understand it, that the Supreme Court's anticipated decision is going to, is this right, return the right to decide abortion law to the states from being a federal matter.
Exactly.
And so what's going to happen in the future is that some states will allow it and other states won't allow it.
Yeah,
right.
The buses will get a lot of business.
Yeah.
And it also means that those who have the money and means to travel will still be able to pursue their wishes, but others can't. The amazing thing is that it is those people who claim to love and cherish the freedom to make their own choices. These are the people that say, don't tell me I got to get vaccinated.
Yes.
But you, young lady, you must bear your rapist child.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes no sense whatsoever.
Yes.
But that's where we are.
I mean, did we mention a couple of weeks ago that the concept of giving birth is a voluntary thing, and so to deny a lady an abortion means that you're forcing her to do something in her own body, which is an extraordinary denial of personal autonomy.
Yes,
right.
It is.
And if babies go to heaven, why stop women from having abortions? Because next thing, once that baby is born and that baby becomes an adult, then you've got to preach your gospel to this adult. They must give their life to Christ, and they stand the chance of going to hell when originally they had the one-way pass to heaven. They didn't need to go through. I mean, I don't know. It's controversial what I'm saying, but I think there's logic in what I'm trying to say.
But there's great logic in what you're trying to say. I've long and often been told by people when I ask them, well, what happens to babies when they die because they didn't hear the word of the Lord?
Yes.
And they say, well, God takes them into heaven right away, which means to me that abortion and killing children, that's the number one way to save souls. If you really believe it.
Well, it depends. It depends on the religion that you're in, the sect that you're in, because we did this a little while ago. I think the Roman Catholics had a problem because in their religion you don't go to heaven unless you've been blessed. So if you've been born and then died, unfortunately, before the priest gets to you, you don't go to heaven. And this is why some centuries ago they invented a condition called limbo, where the unblessed early dead children went that wasn't as bad as hell. Because the mothers were distressed. They'd lost a baby, and then it was going to hell. So they had this sort of halfway house until the last pope, Pope Benedict, before he became pope, he actually repealed the idea of limbo, saying that it was just a theological device.
Well, you mean
Can I share something here, which I think is very problematic with this idea of abortions and how some religious people translate the whole idea of women having abortions. I remember many years ago in church, they used to tell us ladies that if you have an abortion, don't think that you will go scot-free, that when you die and go to at the judgment seat of God, because there has to be a judgment where everything you've done in your life is shown on this projector screen, right? Everything you've done, all the secret things, everything you thought no one saw, will all be projected on there. That while you're standing there waiting your judgment, all the souls of the babies that you had aborted will come to the judgment seat, and they will be crying, and they will be asking for justice, right? So this was what they used to preach. One of the preachers can come around and say, "Oh, I can hear babies in the spirit. I can hear babies crying. The souls of aborted babies. If there's anyone here who has aborted, if it's a man or woman, a woman who's aborted a baby, or a man who has made a woman abort a baby for his baby, the baby's crying, I need you to come forward and ask God for forgiveness and things." So this abortion thing actually cuts really deep in some denominations of Christianity. It's that fear tactic. Even you can go ahead, do your abortion, but don't think you're going to go scot-free. These babies' souls, these babies will cry for justice of you.
That's horrible, isn't it? The only winner there is the priest who gets he gets to control you, and probably gets a donation out of you.
Now, I can just two things. Firstly, John, I don't know how many of you are on the Unbelievable Facebook group, but I made a comment about abortion on that Facebook group, and I was called a vile Satanist because I used the following example. Now, in South Africa, and I think this is, I don't know how prevalent this would be in the United States, but abortion is legal in South Africa and it is freely available. But because of religion, most young girls who fall pregnant are very hesitant to go for an abortion, even though it's free and available. And there are instances where government nurses have actually told girls who went to the clinic for an abortion, no, I will not do it. And just recently in the newspaper, there was a case of a medical doctor who a patient came to him for an abortion and he advised her not to have the abortion. Now, this is a doctor working for the government, and he was then he had to defend himself because he was then taken before the medical board, and he was actually found innocent. Now, the grounds on which he told the woman not to have the abortion was his religious belief, and that's why he was taken to the medical board, because they said that it's not ethical of him to use his religious convictions to influence somebody regarding their body. And he was found innocent, actually, by the courts in the legal process. So in South Africa, although abortion is perfectly legal and freely available, it is frowned upon to such an extent that most women do not make use of it. And the sad part of it is, in a country like South Africa, where we have millions of people who live below the breadline, and where teenage pregnancy has been rising in the past 2 years. And one of the main reasons for teenage pregnancy is teachers who get schoolgirls pregnant. So you have 14, 15, and 16-year-old schoolgirls who are impregnated by teachers who often don't rape them, but promise them that they will give them financial support. It's actually called, it's not a sugar daddy. There's this particular South African slang terminology for it that slips my mind right now. But one of the results of that is, in a town like Worcester, that's not a big town, in the past month, we had 3 cases of newborn babies being found in the rubbish dumps. Wow. So instead of encouraging women, young girls, because most of them are younger than 20, not married, probably either raped or abused by a sexual predator, they fall pregnant, and they probably hide the pregnancy for the entire 9 months. Then they have the baby somewhere alone. Last year there was a case where a girl gave birth in the bathrooms of the local McDonald's, and she was caught on camera afterwards, and then she dumped the baby in the garbage outside the McDonald's. I mean, this happens with regularity. And I made the comment that what is worse, to have an abortion at 6 or 8 or even 12 weeks, or to have so many people traumatized? Because you have the girl who's pregnant traumatized, you have the workers who clean the dustbins, you have them traumatized because they find a newborn baby corpse. What is better? And because I said that, I was called a vile, evil Satanist. You must go and look at the comments on that Facebook group.
Well, I only go to Facebook for entertainment. I don't take it seriously. They are funny.
But I do find so this whole thing of abortion, it goes so far and so deep, in how it affects people's lives. Even in a country where it's perfectly legal, and it won't become illegal.
Yes, but it's still got a stigma, though, hasn't it?
Still has a stigma, yeah.
Yeah. So I want to lighten the mood a bit now after all that horrible abortion stuff and all the other death stuff and missile stuff we've been talking about. You'll be pleased to hear that there is an ex-Jehovah's Witness. You might like to hear this, Ty. I can see your ears perking up at the news of a Jehovah's Witness. His name is Kevin McFree, and I think he's a British guy, by his accent anyway. And he's left JWs, and he's been amusing himself with a video channel on YouTube in which he uses Lego figures and stop motion animation to make movies, little videos about the JWs. And there's songs and everything, and he's really taking the piss out of JWs, and of course they didn't like it. So 3 years ago, they took out a court case against him in Pennsylvania. But the good news is they finally dismissed their case, and so he's won.
Good. Hopefully with God.
Do you mean they abandoned the case?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Yeah.
It's reported as dismissed, but that's obviously not the right legal word, is it?
Well, I mean, once they abandon their case, then the court would probably dismiss it formally. Yeah,
they wouldn't do the dismissing; they'd have to do the abandoning. Yes,
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, 3 cheers for YouTuber Lego JW parodyist Kevin McFree, who is now free.
What's his channel's name?
I don't know. I could send you that because I did look at it. You might just put Lego parody or JW Lego parody into YouTube and see what comes up. His name's Kevin McFree, and he is
there are a few ex-JW YouTube channels that I've spotted. I don't know how many there are, and some of them are very good and very incisive. But they're obviously niche.
You might find this story amusing. In the street that I used to live, the JWs would often come proselytizing on Saturday mornings. And I was the most popular person in that street because I would go out and meet them and invite them in. And they were so much disinclined to talk to me that eventually they stopped coming to our street altogether. They would stop further down the road. And I would go further up the road to meet them, and eventually they didn't even come to our road anymore. So my neighbors loved me for that, but I was so disappointed because I so loved talking to them.
Yes, it is fun. I used to do that too. But I ended up scaring them away because they knocked at the door one time and said, "Do you want to know the truth?" That's their line. And I said, "Well, I'm a science teacher. I probably know it better than you." Anyway, we're now going to Australia. They had an election yesterday and a change of government. And just before this election was conducted, there's since about February, I think, there's been this issue going on because City Point Church in Queensland made a video about their religious instruction visits to schools. And in this video, they promoted to their fellow missionaries what an amazing mission field this opportunity of going into schools was, and that they had an opportunity to harvest hundreds for the Lord by getting access to these children. So, of course, the Rationalist Society of Australia got up in arms and wrote to Queensland's education minister, that's the state government, and asked if, having received this information about the harvesting of our children, asked her whether she was going to alter the rules for religious instruction in schools, because it's pretty outrageous allowing religious groups to take over the classrooms for an hour a week and deliver their nonsense. Unfortunately, the education minister said that she's got no plans to make changes to the current arrangement. So that's a bit of a failure. But
that's just heartbreaking,
isn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also in Australia, and this is more relevant because of the election, the treasurer of the Rationalist Society of Australia, a chap called Brendan Liveris, he's made a video for the government, message to the government about public broadcasters, because we have the BBC, they have ABC. And he, as in the case of our BBC, there's some question of how to fund it now. A lot of people want to stop the license fee. And I'm very much against that, I should say. But the situation in Australia is that the risk is that the new funding system, whatever it is, will mean that it will not be able to effectively perform its role as a critical pillar of Australian democracy. Mm-hmm. And the view of the RSA is that it needs to become more representative of an increasingly non-religious nation to ensure that pro-secular voices are accommodated in its programming. And the worry is, of course, because Australian media was, what's the name of the mogul? Rupert Murdoch. He's very much into doing whatever makes the most money, basically. So he's not going to protect anything which doesn't earn. So, reactions to that, please.
Well, I can just say that in South Africa, we have that situation in our schools. One of the reasons I became involved in atheist or secular humanist activism is because religious organizations have a free pass into our schools. And although there was a law passed that prevents it, it still happens with great regularity. And it sounds very much like what's happening in Australia. And the only way to change that is for secular, humanist, non-religious people to become more vocal. And I sometimes get frustrated because we need to be more vocal. And with that, I don't mean we have to be aggressive or deride people. We just have to say, I'm not religious. And it's perfectly normal to not be religious.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. We need to build the world that we want to live in.
Yes.
I agree completely. And as a small aside, this is sort of combining two different topics in terms of doing something because there's a profit, and then also going back to the Roe versus Wade thing and the removal of options for women. Male contraception classically only has two options, right? Condoms or vasectomy. So like you can put something on you or you can have a doctor do something to you. But as far as a pill goes, there have been number of research proposals saying, hey, we found that spermosa. I'm trying to figure out I didn't know we couldn't curse on the show, so I'm going to use the more technical terms. But
spermatozoa, you can say that.
Spermatozoa have very particular organelles to them that are needed to be motile or mobile, right? And you can take a pill to get rid of the tail, for example, or to make the tail such that it can't use ATP, which is an energy source, to move into wherever they go, right? The great thing is we have that technology, we understand the science, but there's no funding for the research to make that actually go through the trials because there's a political and a culture that contraceptives is a woman's obligation and not a men's opportunity.
And that's probably going to be the next stopping off point. Once they've got rid of Roe versus Wade, they're going after contraception, banning it. Yeah.
And it's that same idea of letting the government take care of the women's decision to whether or not she wants to have an abortion or not have an abortion. Letting the women decide whether they want to take birth control or not, but letting men be free to do whatever they want to do.
Yes.
That is truly unacceptable. But follow the money. The research is there. You can look that up. If you want to find that out, just Google what is the male pill or male birth control. We know the science behind it.
We want sexual equality, not all this nonsense.
Hey, here's the great thing. I'll do one last thing. So I came from Georgia Tech. That's where I got my PhD. Georgia Tech had this great idea of this thing that's basically like a Tic Tac. You take it, it basically knocks out the ATP delivery mechanism for spermatozoa. Yep. And basically it's like you take a Tic Tac, you're shooting blanks. And it could have been, we could have had that. We could have literally had that. Instead, we were in this position where we are right now. I'm just saying we should be more vocal. We should make research and technology like that more acceptable so that we can actually have these options. I think it would solve the abortion issue if everyone had access to birth control. Truly.
Yeah. The whole thing has become politicized and polarized. So you won't be surprised to hear that Republican Governor Pete Ricketts of Nebraska thinks that women and girls who are raped should be forced to carry that pregnancy to term.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that's entirely in accordance with the value that they've been promoting in opposing abortion. The idea is to force women to do things. It is an extraordinary concept that that 50% of the population should be forced to do something
to their bodies. Yes, absolutely.
It's extraordinary.
To finish up, Christian hate preacher Greg Locke. He's a real extreme fundamentalist, raging nutcase of a Christian preacher. If you haven't seen him in video, take a look. He's got a tent church in Tennessee. I expect he's within a half a day's drive from you, Ty, and you, Frank. And you could go along to his sermon. And he's ranting, you cannot be a Christian and vote Democrat in this nation. And he ended up by saying, "You ain't seen an insurrection yet." he's prophesying the next one to be worse. What a nutter. Guys, you have been utterly fantastic, as usual. Time to wrap it up, though. We've done our over our 40 minutes. So thank you very much, as usual.
Good seeing you all.
Thank you.
I'm going to let you all go.
Tersia, you email.
I misplaced the paper that I wrote your email on.
Okay. I'll do it now.
Do it afterwards. I'm going to stop the broadcast. Thank you. Watch Global Atheist News. Come again next week and give your views on it. Thank you.
Oh my God.